Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of BadgerBlitz TV. I'm Jay Kocorowski, senior writer at BadgerBlitz.com, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics from the recruiting trail inside Camp Randall Stadium, of course, on the court of the Kohl Center. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. When this will publish will be on either late Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. It's Happy March Madness, everybody. It's already started with the first four, all that going on in Dayton, but Wisconsin kicks off as the number 3 seed in the Midwest region against number 14 seed Colgate on Friday. The late tip-off, 8:50 p.m. Central Time, I believe on TBS. And joining us to talk some March Madness, we haven't had one of these basketball ones in a while. Joining a good buddy from BadgerBlitz.com, fellow senior writer covering the basketball beat for us, Benjamin Worgull. Ben, man, long time no see in terms of video, man. But, you know, you've caught Wisconsin, this entire season, a pick 10th, in a preseason poll for the conference. They go on and decide to say, hey, they're going to go and get the regular season title in terms of a tie with Illinois. And now they're the number 3 seed in the Midwest region. Quite the regular season. And, we'll see what they can do now.
Yeah, and then the top number 3 seed, the number 9 overall seed by the committee. And so, we've talked all season long about how this team has kind of surpassed expectations, and it's just another kind of feather in their cap for what they've done this year. And I think in a lot of ways, and I've said this to you before, that Wisconsin's kind of playing with house money now because they've so overachieved in the eyes of so many people that no matter really what happens, this season will be viewed as a success. Certainly, to lose 2 straight coming into the NCAA tournament, and if you bow out in the first weekend when you're playing just down the road in Milwaukee, people will be a little disappointed in the finish. But certainly, when you look at the grand scheme of things, how impressive this season has been for so many different reasons. The coaching job of Greg Gard has been fantastic this year when there were so many question marks about him coming into the season. The play of Brad Davison, who's having a career year, how Johnny Davis really has come out of nowhere to become Big Ten Player of the Year. This is the third first-team AP All-American in school history, along with Orlando Tucker and Frank Kaminsky, I believe, are the other two. You look at the development of guys like Tyler Wall and Chucky Hepburn as a true freshman, Stephen Crowell, just really impressive play pretty much across the board with where this team is. And for them to earn the right to play in Milwaukee, close to home, I think will be huge for them. The last time Wisconsin played in Milwaukee for the NCAA tournament was against Oregon 8 years ago, and that building was rocking. That was a huge performance by Wisconsin in the second half that the players and Greg Gard said really carried them. The fans carried them across the finish line. That ended up in the Final Four that year. So all things considered, despite what's happened in the past week and a half with some kind of suspect performances, the entire body of work has set up Wisconsin to have success coming up here in this NCAA tournament.
Well, and then who are they facing? Let's go into kind of the preview of the opponent. Looking at Colgate, for those that see right now up on our screen, a look, 23-11 overall record, 16-2 in the Patriot League. Currently riding a 15-game winning streak into the NCAA tournament. Patriot League champions, and of course the number 14 seed in the Midwest. For those just giving some quick looks, some quick stats about Colgate, 76.1 points per game. They're shooting nearly 48% from the field overall as a team, over 40% from three-point range. Rebounds per game, 36.2. The assist to turnover ratio, look at that, 17.2 assists per contest to only 11.3 turnovers per outing. And then look at their defense, right? Opponents, only 67.1 points per contest, allowing teams, to shoot about 42.5% from the field, 33.4 from deep. And whatnot too. So those are just some of the key stats on that. And Ben, real quick, we'll get into some of the key players. For those that see up on the screen, Nelly Cummings is a big name, 14.5 points per game. All the starters, y'all can see the stats down there. In nice, hopefully order. Y'all can see that. But for what it looks like, starters are very prevalent for Colgate, as you've seen from Wisconsin as well in terms of contributions. Ben, when you have this team, looking at Colgate and what the research you've done, what stands out about Colgate that could give Wisconsin some problems coming up on Friday night?
Three-point shooting. This is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. They're shooting over 40% from three. I think it's 40.3.
Yep.
That's second in the NCAA in field goal percentage coming into the game. So this is a team that shoots a lot of threes, and they make a lot of threes. And it's not just one guy. It's a whole bunch of guys that shoot threes. Senior guard Oliver Lynch Daniels is, I think, 54%. Junior Ryan Moffett is, I think, 44.7 around there. They were first and second in the Patriot League in shooting an individual three-point field goal percentage. And the Raiders have 5 players that shoot over 35.9% from three. So it's a team that you can't just key in on one player. And Wisconsin, for the most part, has done a good job this year of running teams off the three-point line. But, there's a lot of similarities between what Colgate likes to do and what Wisconsin likes to do. They have some bigs in the middle that shoot a high percentage, and those bigs are good passers. They can pop the ball out. And Greg Gard said it's kind of like this group has played together for a long time. It's a veteran group, 3 seniors, 2 juniors. That Greg Gard kind of joked it's like a YMCA type team that just is so in sync. They play a lot. They don't look super flashy, but they get the job done. And it's really been a tale of kind of 2 seasons for them. They were 4-10 at one point. I think in early January, their best win was over Syracuse on the road. That was a net 86, 88, somewhere in there. They lost by 3 points at North Carolina State. They lost by another 3 points at Pittsburgh. They had dealt with some COVID issues in their league, and then they turned it around. I think they're 17-1 since kind of the middle of January. They've won 15 straight. That's the 3rd longest winning streak in the country. They just bulldozed right through the Patriot League, tournament. Clearly the best team in the league. And when I saw this come up on Sunday, who they were playing, and then I started to read a little bit about it kind of drew me back to 12 years ago when Wisconsin played Cornell in Jacksonville in the 2nd round. Cornell was the first Ivy League school to make the Sweet 16 in 31 years. The Big Red had the Ivy League Player of the Year. They shot 43% from three. That was the best in the nation. They had 5 rotation players that shot over 39%. Small college in New York, and they just busted Wisconsin in that game. It was not even close, and how they just kind of took apart Wisconsin to go to the Sweet 16. And there's just a lot of similarities between this Cornell team, that Cornell team, and this Colgate team. And I posted that on Twitter for a story, and I think a lot of people got mad at me because I brought some bad memories. That's the last time Wisconsin lost to a mid-major team in the NCAA tournament, so it's been a long time. But even though it's a 4-13, this has the potential to be some of a scary matchup for Wisconsin, especially if Colgate can get hot from three-point range.
So on the flip side, where do you feel Wisconsin's going to have an advantage against this team that is riding that 15-game winning streak into the tournament?
I think size. I think some size inside could help with Stephen Krall. With Tyler Wall, I think those 2 post players are going to be unique to what Colgate hasn't seen this year. I don't think they've seen a guard anywhere near Johnny Davis. So there's an advantage to Wisconsin there. It's hard to kind of figure out how good Colgate is. I mentioned their 15-game winning streak and things like that, but you look at their overall season, they did not play. I don't think they played a quad 1 game the entire year. I know they didn't play a top 25 team, and I know they didn't play an NCAA tournament team this whole year. So they haven't played a lot of quality competition. They were 20-6 against quadrant 4 teams. So a good chunk of their games came against the lowest level, according to the NCAA net rankings. But again, this is a team that's well coached. Their coach has been there 11 years. His 2nd career game as a head coach was against Wisconsin in Madison back in 2011, I want to say. And you look at the success of this group. This group has been to, I think, 3 NCAA tournaments in the last 4 years. So this isn't a first go-around for them. They've been in these type of situations before. They haven't won a game yet, but they know what to expect. So for a lot of people that just automatically just penciled Wisconsin into the next round, there's some red flags that need to be waved here with the Badgers, especially considering Wisconsin hasn't shot the ball particularly well from 3-point range this season. If they get down by a substantial amount. That's a hard thing for this team to rely upon, the three-point shot to get back in the game, just because it really hasn't been there all season long.
Now, you talked about Colgate real quick, checking up on the latest NCAA net rankings as we were talking. Colgate, number 128 in the NCAA net rankings as of right now. They're saying, let's see, oh, and I'm just making sure that I am reading this correctly. Yeah, they are 0-2 in quad 1, 1-0 in quad 2, and
Yeah,
1-6
yeah,
in
and that was the
quad
win
3.
against Syracuse. Yeah, that was their best win, the quad win game. I think their worst loss was maybe to Harvard, I want to say, in the non-conference portion of the schedule. But again, yeah, they haven't played a ton of top level competition, so it'll be interesting. But again, this team has a lot of confidence. They, like I said, they steamrolled through the Patriot League. No one really came close to them in the Patriot League tournament. They have a lot of players that are seasoned, that can shoot the ball well, and so this will be a game for Wisconsin where they'll need to be on their P's and Q's defensively, and they'll need to improve vastly from what we've seen over the last two games, especially defensively. I think Wisconsin defensively, the last two games, have really played very poorly. I think in the first half against Nebraska, they were very poor, especially the second half against Michigan State. They could not get a stop. They could not just find any type of rhythm defensively. They couldn't generate a turnover. I think Michigan State only had one turnover in the second half. Wisconsin has to play better defensively if they want to go far in this tournament.
In your eyes, you talked about Tyler Wall and Stephen Crowell inside. How many touches do you think they'll get going in, going into this contest during this contest? And is there a mark you feel that, and obviously you have someone like a Johnny Davis that can go in and slash and get in the paint too, but how many touches do you think Crowell and Wall will need to have to be successful to help, especially if, to try to counteract anything Colgate's doing from deep?
Well, it kind of depends on what the three guys in black and white stripes are going to do, right? Just because Wisconsin is the best when they get the ball in the post and they touch the post, whether it just be getting the ball inside for a layup or for a kick out, just moving the ball around helps this team. And Stephen Crowell is their best forward in terms of just the size he brings. Tyler Wall is really good too, but Tyler Wall can be so versatile. He can do so many different things. I'm talking a true low post player, and that's Stephen Crowell. But Crowell, the last couple of games, has not played well. Nebraska had some early turnovers that kind of shook his confidence. And then against Michigan State, he picked up two quick fouls and sat for most of the first half. And, Chris Vogt has done some really good things here as of late, but he hasn't been that consistent offensive presence that Wisconsin needs. And he also has had foul trouble. So when you get past those two, you start to get in a little bit of a gray area here with what Wisconsin can really do from a reserve forward standpoint. Ben Carlson has done some nice things, but isn't consistent enough to be counted upon for those quality minutes in those type of games. We haven't seen much of Carter Gilmore here over the last several weeks, and really that's it for Wisconsin. So staying out of foul trouble, and Gard also pointed this out too, the NCAA tournament's called differently than Big Ten play. These are going to be crews that are not used to reffing a Wisconsin game or a Big Ten type game. So it probably will be called a little bit tighter. So that's something that Crowell needs to be aware of, and he fully acknowledged that when we asked him about it on Tuesday, that he needs to be physical, but he needs to know where that line is so he doesn't pick up those fouls early to force him to the bench. So, but getting back to your original question, the more Wisconsin can get the ball inside and establish a rhythm in the low post, the better. I think Wisconsin has missed that rhythm the last couple games. They haven't moved the floor enough. The ball movement has been stagnant. And when you do that and kind of allow teams to have 3-on-5 defense, they can smother you, they can double team you, they can do all these things to you to really kind of, bottleneck your attack. And Michigan State did that in the first half, and Wisconsin had an awful first half, but because they were so good defensively, they only trailed 24-22, but then the defense kind of collapsed on them down the stretch. So it'll be important for Wisconsin to get some looks early, get some shots to go in. They've missed a lot of layups here the last couple of games. Second half against Nebraska, I think they missed 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. Michigan State, same thing. They missed 8 for the game. I mean, these are shots that Wisconsin has to make, around the rim, especially now in these one-and-done situations.
Well, on that real quick, before we kind of get into your X factor and your predictions going forward, what is something like that where you see the missed bunnies, or as we refer to them as, or those layups where they appear easy? What's the remedy for that?
Slowing down. I think you've seen, especially with Krall against Nebraska, not to pick on Stephen Krall, but there was an opportunity for him to get a very easy layup. He had no one behind him late in the game. I think that would either tied the game or given Wisconsin the lead, and he just rushed it. And when you rush a shot like that, your percentages go down. Even a high percentage shot, when you do something that's out of your character, it just alters the timing. We saw that with Johnny Davis against Michigan State, where Johnny Davis tried to do too much in the first half, never could get his timing down in that game, and he missed 16 shots and made many bad decisions as the game wore on. Instead of kicking the ball out, instead of moving the ball, tried to do it all himself like he's done so many times. But he just, without that repetition, without that confidence, or without that, just that what practice gives him, the timing of it just all goes astray. So slowing down, rely on the fundamentals, that's going to be key for Wisconsin. And not try to get rushed. Just got to play their offense, and Wisconsin should be okay.
So going into that X factor, who, at least in this first round matchup against Colgate itself, who do you think is the X factor for this contest?
Can I just pen in Johnny Davis for this entire tournament as the X factor for Wisconsin? Wisconsin needs him to play well.
Right.
Wisconsin needs Johnny Davis to play well. We've seen the last two games when Johnny Davis has been hurt or not playing well, what happens to this team. This team grinds to a halt. To be fair, against Nebraska, when Davis was out in the first half with foul trouble, Wisconsin went on a scoring run. And in the second half, after Davis got hurt immediately, they went on a scoring run. But just him being on the floor just changes everything. It opens up the floor, creates opportunities. So having Davis on the floor is important. Keeping him out of foul trouble is important. And keeping him in the rhythm of the game is important. Davis needs to know that he doesn't need to do it all himself. And I think at the end of the season, Wisconsin started to kind of carry some of the burden off his shoulders. You saw it late in the game against Minnesota. You saw it early in games against Rutgers when he was in with foul trouble, or that without him on the floor, Wisconsin did okay. Happened against Nebraska, like I just mentioned. So Davis needs to kind of rely on his teammates, and then in certain situations, he can take over games. But when he's missing 16 shots and he's making bad decisions, Wisconsin just isn't going to go far. You need him to score, you need him to play well, but you also need him to facilitate well, and that's something he didn't do against Michigan State. 1B would probably be Krall. To have Krall on the floor being productive, kind of what you saw in Minnesota with his 20 points, with his rebounding, with his presence there, him in the underneath the basket, out of foul trouble, that's also critical for Wisconsin.
Okay. Key matchup for you. I know you talked about 3-point shooting for Colgate, but is there a key matchup that you're looking forward to watching? Someone versus from Wisconsin taking on someone from Colgate, offense, defensive matchups at all?
Just how Wisconsin will handle switches on the 3-point shooters. I think there's been times here over the course of the season where Wisconsin has gotten kind of out of sorts defensively, and it's led to wide open shooters. Happened against Purdue, against Stefanovic. Happened against Michigan State, where they just will have a miss assignment and it leads to wide open shots for 3-point shooters. And Colgate has so many of them that just they can't get away with that. Wisconsin, they need to be able to be sound defensively for 40 minutes, because you give this team an inch with how well they move the ball. This team can hurt you from the perimeter. They've hurt a lot of teams. They've started out slow in games and caught fire in second halves and not cooled off. So that's the matchup for me. How will Wisconsin guards handle the switches to prevent open 3-point looks?
Last question for you, or in terms of this game, what's your prediction? What happens in that first round? Does Wisconsin move on to the round of 32 to face either LSU or oh gosh, who am I forgetting? Gosh, this is embarrassing. It's LSU.
Iowa State.
Yes.
Iowa State,
of course. Yeah. It's been a long day.
Probably another close-ish game for Wisconsin. I can't pick a 13-4 upset. I think that's a little too gutsy for me. I'm a little bit more chalky with my picks in a bracket. And I think Wisconsin this week off has helped reset them to a degree. I think I think the guys are in a good headspace heading into this game. I think playing it near home will help them. So I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be a tight game for 30-ish minutes. I think Wisconsin has enough in the tank to be able to win this one. We'll go Wisconsin by 8 or 9, somewhere in there.
And then looking deeper, how far can this team go? They've played well in close games for the most part for most of the year. Slip-ups these past 2 contests that have resulted in losses. But, this team feels like it still has a slim margin of error, but they've pulled through for the most part. But how do you feel this goes in this mid to late March, and how deep can Greg Gard and his team go?
Well, and again, it's all about matchups in this tournament. And if you get the right matchups and you can exploit the right matchups, you can go pretty far. I mean, talent will take you pretty far too, but it's how your scouting report is and how your players react to that scouting report and how you can attack another team's weakness. So I certainly think Wisconsin can get out of this weekend. I think they can go win 2 games here. I would almost argue that this game will be tougher than the next one, just because I think Iowa State really has been struggling. LSU doesn't have a coach right now, doesn't have a head coach after firing their coach before the tournament started. And then we'll see what happens in Chicago. Again, another close site for them if they get there. They might have to face Auburn, might have to face Kansas in the Elite Eight. Those are some pretty tough matchups for them. But this team has surprised us all season long. Maybe they have a couple more surprises left in the tank. So I certainly think they can get out of this weekend. I think that should be the expectation. I think for fans, and this team is expecting to win 6 games. I'm expecting them to win 1 for now, and then let's see what happens after that.
Absolute last question before I let you go, Ben. Overall with this tournament, what are some key games that you're looking forward to seeing, that if you're able to catch them, if you're not covering, obviously, the team covering Wisconsin, but what games overall in these brackets stand out the most to you, and who's your pick for the national champion?
That's a good question. I haven't finished my bracket yet. I'm gonna be watching the Big Ten teams. I think Illinois against Lamont Paris' Chattanooga is going to be interesting, just because Illinois has just been kind of wonky away from home this year. I think Indiana's playing really well. Usually a first 4 team can win a game or 2 in the field of 64, and I think Indiana could take out St. Mary's. I think Purdue is the most talented team in the Big Ten, Jake, from top to bottom, and yet they haven't anything to show for it this year. They finished 3rd in the Big Ten because they lost so many close games. Then they finished runner-up in the Big Ten tournament. I think Purdue could be a Final Four team, or they could be a first weekend out in this tournament. I think that's what makes this tournament so fun, is that you just never know. So, but I think Arizona could be sneaky good. I think Sean Miller for so many years could never get to the Final Four, and it'd be kind of poetic the year after they fire him, they get to the Final Four. Gonzaga too is a team that's always kind of been there. How good are the Zags now that they're going to have some tough games week in and week out, or I should say game in and game out. That's the beauty of this tournament. You can make a weird bracket, and that weird bracket wins your office pool. So I'll be watching the Big Ten teams for sure, and catch all the other ones that I can when I have the ability to.
Ben, man, we always enjoy you coming on Badger Blitz TV. We need to do this more. Hopefully it'll come up in the next couple of weeks, see how far Wisconsin goes. On that note, what coverage do you have coming up for BadgerBlitz.com, Wisconsin.Rivals.com in the coming days?
Up on the site now is a Colgate preview about the 3-point shooting, a story on Tyler Wall and how he does a little bit of everything for Wisconsin. Nothing new, but just kind of some revelations to how Wall is finally healthy after that nasty ankle injury he suffered in late January. I got a cool Brad Davis and Greg Gard story. I think I've talked about this before. It's finally done. It's finally ready. That's going to be on the site tomorrow. Notes package from Milwaukee, and then full coverage, getting you ready for a late Friday tip-off between Wisconsin and Colgate. All be free coverage on BadgerBlitz.com.
Excellent, Ben, man. As always, man, appreciate you coming on. We'll be talking soon.
All right, Jake. Take care.
Folks, again, Benjamin Worgull, senior writer at BadgerBlitz.com. Real quick, before we let you all go, y'all can see this right here. There we go. There's the graphic. New promo for BadgerBlitz.com just launched yesterday. New users go to BadgerBlitz.com, enter promo code Badgers22 to sign up. Guess what? $22 for your first year. Full access not just to BadgerBlitz.com, but also the Rivals.com network, premium, all that good stuff. Less than $2 a month. Give us a chance. Ben, myself, John, combined 40 years plus experience covering Wisconsin athletics in some form, whether recruiting, football, basketball. It's impressive. Give us a chance to earn your business. Appreciate y'all listening. I'm Jake Kocorowski again for Ben Worgull. We'll talk to y'all soon here on Badger Blitz TV and BadgerBlitz.com.